Okay, John, we'll have you start first, and then Richard, if you would follow up.
Okay, under the engineering, we've been doing a pole testing program to check our integrity of the poles. And we found a pole on our 138 line with a pole tester that we have been using to get digital data. I think we already talked about this previously. And once we found it, it was a little bit of a question because of the location it was at. It's up on a hill, a dry area, poles around it. We haven't had any problem. And so we went ahead and did some of the old tests. We did a sound test. It appeared to be okay. We dug down and retested it with the same piece of equipment, got the same results. And then Richard called in, and he went up and did a more basic test and drilled a 1-inch hole into the pole. And we took a bent probe and probed the ground and verified that there's definitely a void inside that pole. And so, is there anything else I'm missing, Rich, on that one?
No, the evasive test, we really don't like to do those, but that is really the only way to check. The old method of checking those poles, you'd have to drill a hole and actually you physically test the density of the wood just by the feel. And after that, you've got to refill a pole full of treatment and then put a treated plug back in it so that you don't want termites and ants. Bees, we find everything in these old pole buds where they make a hole.
The hole, Richard, in comparison to pole? The poles.
The pole is the bud itself is probably 24 inches across.
And the hole is what?
Or 1-inch hole. So it doesn't really affect the integrity or the strength of the pole. We drill a lot of 1-inch holes in those poles to frame them up. But below ground, you don't want to do that. If we would have hired, say, Osmos or someone, that is their testing method, to come in and drill a hole in it and they probe it. And that's why when we purchased this tester, that was one of the reasons, because it's a non-invasive test. It uses a 16th-inch drill bit to drill in and test the density of the pole. This pole, we just didn't trust that tester because the pole's only 20 years old. Every pole around it tested good. There was no evidence of termite damage, no evidence of rotting. It sounded very well. But that center of that pole, the center 6 inches, is just hollow and pulpy. So we're going to schedule it for change out. I might note that on that line we have a very narrow window in October and then in the spring when we can feed off at the 69 line, where we can kill that line, the 138, that basically feeds both valleys, and we can kill that line and change out that pole. So we'll be scheduling that for our October window of maintenance.
Okay, I mentioned last month operations was going to do a breaker repair. That is scheduled. It will happen next week as soon as technician will be in, and we'll go ahead and proceed with that. Oil samples have been taken on the station transformers, and they've been sent out for analysis. And for metering, the high voltage testing probe for the piece of equipment has been ordered. We're just waiting for it to arrive so we can do high voltage testing. And that's pretty much my report. Have any questions?
I have just a quick question from last meeting, actually. The transformers, we talked about replacing the oil in. What was the age of those things? How many years old?
The transformers we were working on, to follow up on that, we look at each transformer. If they're over 10 to 12 years old, approximately 12 years ago, we started looking at low-loss transformers. That's all we purchase in our specs. So if they're, the only ones we're working on are those. The rest of them we scrap out. Anything over those dates that are not a low-loss transformer.
We don't have PCBs in our system.
We eradicated our PCBs in the mid-90s. We went through and tested every transformer, every piece of equipment we had, and we sent literally hundreds of transformers out for destruction. They do a thermal destruction process on those, and we have certificates of destruction on those, and we can 99.99% sure that we are PCB free. Every piece of equipment we send out, we pull the test on it and verify we have the test before it'll leave, and companies will not accept that unit into their shop unless you have a PCB test on it. So, now when I say PCB free, it's 49 parts per million and less is considered PCB free. in Nevada. If you go to other states such as Washington, it's 10 parts per million. So the EPA considers 49.
Wonder what a difference in state.
Washington has a stricter standard than the EPA standard.
Oh, it's below the EPA.
Uh-huh.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Rich, you want to go ahead?
Okay. Our construction crews have been working in the Virgin Valley area. They've been working up in Pulte. They finished up the Prominent subdivision in that area, pulling in high voltage wire, setting transformers. They continue to retrofit and paint transformers. We've also we found some theft on our 12 kV, 69 and 138 kV lines, basically between Mesquite and the Mesa. We've had 59 of those vandalized where the pole grounds have been cut, and some of them only 8 feet. Some of them you can see where they've hooked a vehicle to them and pulled them all the way from the top. We've replaced those. We've also done a police report with Metro on those. So we continue to, again, monitor those. We're patrolling those areas monthly to look for vandalism. Someone's out there. We're countering that by using a longer barbed staple and stapling those every 3 inches. By code, it's every 6 inches. And just to make it harder, they got to work harder to get the copper. But basically, it's just people out stealing copper.
There is, Rich, just for information, in this RE magazine, there are some systems that supposedly will help you in copper theft.
Well, and we've gone to tin copper, and you can actually get copper that now has your system name written on it. The cost of that has to be, but we may end up having to do something of that nature.
The places where they sell this, after they do steal it, are they alerted that you have to prove where you got that before they're paid for the copper? Or where are they selling it? There must be some place they can sell it that is easy to sell.
They've passed all kinds of new laws and regulations, but it really hasn't made a dent. No. They continue to still take it and recycle it.
In the Overton area, we've finished the water storage project at the Valley Fire. We've also just this week started a project down at Simplot. We're doing a line extension of 10 structures, and that will allow us to remove 20 structures. They're extending their pit and need basically a whole power line taken out so they can extend the pit in those areas. I did an outage report last month. I want to do another one this month. In the Mesquite-Bunkerville area, since our last meeting, we've had 3 outages in the Mesquite-Bunkerville area, affected a total of 6 customers for 7 customer hours. Moapa-Glendale, we had 2 outages affecting 9 customers with 15 customer hours. In the Overton-Logandale area, there were no outages. So we had a total of 5 outages affecting 15 customers with 22 customer hours. For the number of storms, those we had come through, out of those 5 outages, 4 were lightning related, dropping a fuse. But really just no outages for the amount of storms we've had. As far as our safety meeting, we do not have a safety meeting this month. Our instructor has asked for the month off. He's moving into Texas, out of Las Vegas to Texas. He will remain to be our instructor, but he'll be here October 1st for our next meeting. We're still continue with 2,162 days without a lost time. Next month, we'll have our 6-year window. We're about 5 years, 11 months, and 7 days as of today. So we continue to stress the safety within the company. Any questions? If not, that's my report.